Welcome to the Medovia Menopause Podcast, your trusted source for information about menopause and midlife. Join us each episode as we have great conversations with great people. Tune in and enjoy the show.
Hey, welcome back, everyone, to the Menopause Podcast, the space where we rewrite the story of midlife, one honest conversation at the time. And today we're diving into a topic that nearly every woman thinks about, but rarely talks about it openly. What comes next? What does purpose, identity, and contribution look like after decades of building a career, raising families, and caring for others? And so today we are joined by the brilliant co-founders of Lustre, Baird and Karen Wagner. They are former senior executives who walked away from enormous careers in law and finance only to discover that retirement, or what society thinks retirement should look like, didn't fit. So they set out to redefine it. And through Lustre, they've built a bold, modern, stylish community for women ready to step into their next chapter with confidence, attitude, and connection. And they're changing the narrative about what it means to age with purpose, curiosity, and power. Erica and Karen, thank you so much for being here. We've admired how you've carved out this incredible space for women who aren't done, who want more, and want to evolve. And your mission resonates deeply with our listeners. So thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you.
I love having two people on because April and I always go at this together. So it's fun to have four of us today. Listen, your tagline is retire with attitude, and it's bold and refreshing. So what does that attitude look like for today's midlife and beyond women?
So we came up with that because it really reflects how we and the women that are part of this community think about the future, right? It is a downer experience to retire for most of us. I mean, there are some lucky people that think, oh, yay, I'm retired. But for most of us, it's kind of a shock to our system. And so the question is how, once you absorb that shock and you kind of get over that hump, how are you going to approach the next 20 or 30, as you said, decades of your life?
Yeah.
And so what we mean by that really is it's a just say yes attitude.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm not old. I'm not done. I'm not invisible. I refuse to let people categorize me or stereotype me like that. And I'm going to find a way to be all the things that I want to be and do all the things that I want to do. So it's kind of a take control attitude, saying, I can do this. I can do this. Yes, I can.
Love it. A lot of self-talk, right? And building ourselves up. I'm so excited for this conversation because I just had a similar conversation with a friend yesterday who is in this place who, when I said, what do you want? Did not have an answer. And Kim and I find that all the time. You know, I've been caring for people my whole life. I had my career and I'm ready to retire, but I don't know what I want. I don't know what I need. I don't know what I want. I don't know what's next. So I love what you're doing. And I would say, midlife can sometimes feel like it's this middle place. It's this almost like an earthquake, identity earthquake, so to speak. And I'm wondering if you can share with our listeners what some of the biggest shifts are that you see women experiencing as they think about what's next in their lives. What are those big shifts?
Well, some of the shifts are the ones you've alluded to. Often at the time that you're retiring, you're perceived as getting older. Your children, if you have had a family, are growing up and they don't need you anymore constantly. Your job is disappearing. Your structure for these many years is gone. What next? And a lot of people come into this with a feeling of shock, and like, okay, well, what am I doing? Where am I going? I can't see the future. I don't know what's happening. So what we're trying to tell women is actually, you have an amazing foundation upon which to build. It's not like when you were entering the workforce, when you were also being revolutionary and insisting on entering this place where women hadn't been welcome. You did a great job then, but you didn't know anything then. Now you know everything. So now you have a foundation. and you can build on it. Now, you haven't spent much time thinking about yourself and what you're going to do because you've been working full time and raising your children and looking after your parents and everything else. So you need to take some time and think and start thinking, what did you like about what you did? What did you not like? What kind of passion do you have? Where do you think you might play a role? And take time. You've earned the time to think about it, so take time and think.
Yeah, without filling that space, right? I feel like oftentimes we jump from one thing to the next to fill space and
Yep.
to feel busy because it can be a little bit frightening, depressing. I mean, you fill in the blank with the adjectives to retire and not have the next thing. And it does remind me of I'm a very visual person. It reminds me of being in a hallway and one door is closed. Both doors are actually closed. So you've walked through a door that is closed and you're standing in the middle of a hallway. It can feel cold. It can feel empty. It can feel lonely because there's not another door opening for you immediately. And I'm wondering how you, with your organization, help women to differentiate that, end of the job here and the beginning of a new purpose here. So you reference that a little bit, Karen, and asking those questions and finding the space and finding the quiet and really having that self-reflection. But what other tips can you give women, tangible tips to say, this is what you should do?
Well, just to follow up on that, I think April for a second, the interesting part about pausing, right? The first thing that we say is you're not alone,
Yeah.
because in that hallway, you feel really
Yeah,
alone.
absolutely.
And that you're the only person in the world that is going through this sense of loss, this mourning period of fabulous loss like you've never experienced before. The second thing is that notwithstanding the fact that you have these foundational skills, right? You've never really had to exercise them in certain kinds of ways. You've never had to build a community on your own because you had school and then you had work, then you had your family's friends. I mean, you never really had to do all the things that now you may have to do on your own. So what we basically say is, to follow up on what Karen said, is that you're going to miss community. I mean, let's just assume that you're going to miss community. Tell yourself you miss your community, you miss your work community, and think about how you're going to go about finding a new community. You're not going to replicate the old one, right? But what did you like most about it? Did you like that it was multi-generational? Did you like that it was, out and about? Did you like the conversations? Do you want it to be centered around, new interests? I mean, we tell a story that Karen has one story and I have another, but I really wanted to pursue interior design. I like visual stuff too. And so I thought, oh, I'll take classes. And because everything I did was at night after work, I signed up for classes at 9 o'clock at night at some New York art school. And, everybody in that class is 17.
Right.
Right. I mean, there's nobody that I wanted to meet. My people were not going to be taking classes at 9 o'clock on a weekday night. And so I took the same exact class during the day, and I have 3 new friends, some of whom I travel around the world with. So you have to, I think our message at Lustre is just one practical example. You have to think through, where are your people, not just where are the people, this is a class of poli-sci that I might be interested in, but are my people going to go to that location? Are they going to be there? Are they going to be virtual? Do I really want a virtual experience, or am I looking to meet people to go out for coffee with? And Lustre is another thing. I mean, our people are getting together on Lustre, finding each other in their communities and getting together because they are having trouble finding women who have dispersed, I guess is the right way to say that, right? We all were, you could find you, I'd call, your headquarters and I could find you. Now, where are you?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think you talk about like what trying to identify what you want. And April referred to that for a second. Like, we've never asked ourselves that. We've never asked ourselves, like, what do we want and how do I go get that? And that seems so scary for something that you've never had to do before. And yet everyone knows that community is important for longevity.
Mhm.
How do you guide people to figure out what it is that they want and how not to, be that person, that stereotypical person who turns on the TV and that's what they do all day.
Because that's easier. That's
Things
easier.
about retirement, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
How do you help them figure out what they want and then how to take some action on that?
Well, oddly enough, one way we found to be useful was to say, think about it as your job.
Mm.
Think about it as work. You've been working for 40 or 50 years, whatever it is. You know how to work. You know you have to sit down, maybe write something as we did on a piece of legal pad. Think about what you really want. Regard this time as work. Don't regard it as self-absorption or planning to do something entertaining or without purpose. It's work. What is it that you would like to do now for 30 years in the future? And by the way, that's another thing that a lot of people don't realize. Our runways are long.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up. Mhm.
Yes, you have to have some thought involved in what you want to do. For
Mhm.
most of us, also, you need purpose.
Yeah.
Filling your time is not purposeful. What is purposeful is thinking about doing something that you want to do or that you think other people would like you to do, as long as you want to do it too. And think about how your life is going to evolve, and how you want to make it work for you. And what we did, luckily we knew each other, so we did it together. We found an office and we went to the office and we sat in the office and we said, okay, this is our job today. We're going to write this list. We're going to think, what do we like about what we want to do? What did we not like? How are we going to get community? Who do we know that we could commune with? And we really were very analytical about it.
Mhm. I love that you treated it like a job. Um, I'm an Enneagram 1, so that's where I go. Lists and plans and lists.
You make it to the
Let's
airport
do
way
it.
early, just so you
Yeah.
know. I mean, that's
Yeah,
great
you
because
gotta
I'm
get up
not that.
early.
Yeah.
But I mean, in all honesty, though, as we're talking through this, it's not so easy for some people. Even if you
Oh.
are very successful in your career and you're retiring, not everyone has that personality. Jobs are different, roles are different, right? Maybe you didn't lead a team of 50 people. Maybe you weren't C-suite. Maybe you preferred being in a lab, right, all day. And
Mhm.
that's successful. But now I have this identity crisis where I don't have work and I'm not an outgoing person. I kind of prefer to be alone. It can be kind of scary when we say, treat it like a full-time job, right? I think it could be a little bit overwhelming. So how do we encourage women to come out of that shell, to break out of that shell? And it's really taking that little fear monger and giving it a tap off the shoulder, right? Like, you're not welcome here.
I don't need you right now.
I don't need you right now. Thank you for
Mhm.
that, but I don't need you right now. Yeah.
I think that there's some things that are more important than others, right? In that tap on the shoulder. I think it's as Kim said, we know that community is important for longevity.
Mm-hmm.
We know that somebody that wants to be in the lab all day in whatever the retirement lab looks like is probably not going to thrive over the years as much as a person that has people around. So I think that the notion of getting out, right, of whatever it is that your cocoon is, if you're that kind of person. However, it doesn't mean you have to go to a cocktail party every night
Yeah.
or you can go to the library and
Yeah.
talk to the librarian. I
Mm.
mean, it doesn't have to be noisy activities. It can be tutoring a kid, at a nonprofit down the street. It can be literacy stuff. It just means finding some place that you're comfortable, but it's not all about you. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that sounds kind of strange, I guess, but the minute it's all about you, I think you're taking away a big chunk of what makes the future sentient and healthy and lively and interesting and all the things that we wanted to be going forward.
Yeah.
Well, and I think for women, it's very hard even when they try to be all about themselves, right? They're so used to taking care
Mhm.
of
Mhm.
other people. Like I said, I'm watching my mom go through this transition right now, and she knows what she wants, but how to get there is feels selfish to her, and trying to figure out how to, break out of that feeling of I now can take care of myself and do what I want is a huge thing. I guess I'm wondering for people that have worked for decades, what are you seeing as the hardest part of loosening or letting go of that identity that they built around work and who they are around that space?
Well, the identity is going to be taken away from you one way or the other. And what we have certainly observed is that people feel lost, and almost no matter what they did before or what they want to do now, it's very important for them to find someone to talk to.
Mm.
Not like a therapist, but a friend who says, and you can go to your friend and say, I really miss my job. And there are some people who would say to you, well, you must not have had very much of a life if you miss your job. But those of us who had jobs that we loved, we do miss our jobs and we do
Mhm.
mourn the loss of them. And we can talk to each other about that. And somehow we found that that makes it more likely that a woman who's feeling that way will start feeling like she could come out of her shell and start thinking about something else because she's not alone.
Yeah.
We tell women like people like that, you're not going to get your job back. You're just not. And in fact, the great news is in a few months, you're not going to want your job back.
Yeah.
That's the great news. But you are going to find that the strengths and skills that the job gave you are going to lead you to someplace new. You can't see it right now, but you have to work at it. And once you work at it for a while, and you might try a few things and you might fail and you might think you want to do something and you do it and it's just horrible and you never want to do it again. Fine. You've been
Mhm.
through that. Keep going and you will find something that will give you purpose and will give you community at the same time. And it may be something quiet, like as Erica says, you don't have to be at a party every night,
Yeah.
but you can be with other people who feel the same purpose that you do, or at least a similar purpose, and you can talk about it and share it, and you will develop a community that way.
Mm.
You two are pretty inspirational on that, actually. How did you come up with this realization, like this is what I need to do now in my post retirement, or we need to do now? I
Mm.
assume that you had some connection and we're talking, but how did that come up for you?
It took us a while. I mean, I think that when we had all sorts of ideas of things we were going to do when we retired together, and age and stereotypes and ageism got in our way, I
Mhm.
think, and that was stunning to us because we thought, the day before we were fine. So what happened? That was kind of a shock to our system.
Mm.
But really, to clarify something I said before, I think we also realized that this was a time to be selfish in a good way. I mean, selfish, Kim, to talking about your mother, I mean, is not a bad word. I think we've made it into something that's negative, but it's not necessarily negative. It's taking care of yourself is first and foremost, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
If you don't do that, you can't
Self-care.
take care of anybody else. I mean, we
Right.
learned that years ago.
Mhm.
So I think we said to ourselves, look, here's what's happening to us. All these things that people think we are, we're not. And yet slowly we started to internalize them ourselves. We're both pretty strong, tough kind of women, but we found ourselves going out and somebody say, what do you do now? And we'd say, we're retired.
No.
Like,
Uh-huh.
we started accepting all those things and they were internalized. And that's what we started really saying we need to fight back against that. We need together to say, no, they're assuming we're one kind of person. Maybe we're new, maybe they've never seen people like us before, but we're not that.
Hmm.
That's
And-
where retire with attitude comes from.
Right.
I
We're not
love
that.
Sure.
Yeah.
And
You know
so-
what? I want to stay right here in this moment for just a minute because I think, we have listeners of all ages that tune in. And if we're not at that postmenopausal stage, the average postmenopausal stage, right? You're a little younger, you might not really know what we're talking about here. So when you say ageism and, fitting into that mold that society says that we're in now, can you unpack that a little bit more and tell me what you mean by that? What are some words that come to mind to help the audience understand what you faced at that point?
Well, I think that a couple things. Retired means older, right? In our world, right? So if you say that you're retired, you're saying something about your age. And society believes that when you are of a certain age, you want to, or you're entitled to, or you should be any of those things,
Mhm.
right? Retreating, I guess is the best word, retreating.
Mhm.
So you should be making room for the next generation. You're not relevant anymore. You don't know what you're talking about. The world has moved on.
Mhm.
Ageism, it makes assumptions solely on the basis of your age
Yeah.
about who you are now. I think, Karen, that's kind of how I'd say what ageism is about. So instead of saying, and I think my daughter is in her early 40s, and I think she would find that too in a way. I don't think
Mhm.
it's there. It is unwarranted and unfair stereotypes and assumptions based solely on age.
Yeah.
And then women have, I mean, just to say it, women have a double whammy because older men have historically, at least in our country, been silver foxes and
Mhm.
all those procreation things that they can do or continue
Mhm.
to do, right or wrong.
Right.
So they're kind of the gray hair, silver foxy guy in the room, and nobody says I like the gray haired woman in the room. Yeah,
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
And
So
I,
I
and I think
think
you're right. That's fair, Erica. Even in your 40s, I think we can feel that ageism begin to creep up, to creep in. Hmm.
And you
Yeah.
don't want to. You want to. I mean, I want to believe that that's a thing of the past. And unfortunately, it's not. And you still see it and you still battle with it. And how do you get past that? And, you know, I think that's something that's misunderstood about aging
Hmm.
people. And I
Hmm.
think, you're trying to break those molds of what is assumed there of someone that age. But what do you think besides this ageism thing is the most misunderstood about people who still feel energized, ambitious, full of ideas? What have you found as you're trying to implement this and talk to other people in your in your community?
Well, one thing we found, which is sort of the flip side of all this, is that if you go back and you look at retirement 100 years ago when it was sort of invented in the United States, the people who were retiring were men mostly, and a lot of them worked in hard physical labor. A lot of them had been through one or two world wars. It was a very physical thing, and it was tiring, and they were tired, and their life expectancy was not long.
Yeah.
So retirement was a couple of years of hanging out in the sunshine and having a good time with your wife, and well deserved. Now we're coming at retirement and older age from knowledge economies. We're
Hmm.
coming at it without having had the physical stress that that generation did. We have much more life ahead of us. The health changes in the 1950s have resulted in us having healthy longevity. It's not just that we're living, it's that we're living well. We're very healthy, we're very energetic. Most of us can still think more or less.
Hmm.
And so we just have a long time ahead of us to use what we have. And that's the flip side, is a lot of people don't realize, we didn't realize it really when we retired. We were relatively astonished to hear what our life expectancy was going to be. And it makes a big difference to how you think about your future. If you think
Mhm.
about it for 2 years, well, fine, and go, sip your pina coladas and have a good time. 30 years, you can't do that.
Yeah.
You have to have a plan. And for women especially, we think the plan has to involve purpose of some kind. And that means some kind of devotion to activity that is outside of you to some extent.
That
Yeah,
makes
I love
that so
that.
real simple how you say that. I mean, it sounds simple, right?
Yeah.
It's hard to figure out what that is, but it sounds like, okay, yeah, I'll just go do that.
Well, it was, I don't mean to suggest it was easy. I mean, Erica alluded to this. The thing that really opened our eyes one day was we found a nonprofit we really liked. We loved their mission. We said, we don't want to work in your mission, but we have many skills that could be applied on the sort of corporate side of it to broadening your reach. And we'd
Mhm.
like to offer our services for free for 6 months to do a project that we think will make you better. And they said, oh, wonderful. That is so wonderful. And then they took it to the board, and the board came back and said, we don't know where to put you in the org chart because
Mhm.
we don't want you to run the place, which we didn't want to do. We don't see you as interns, and we didn't either. We just don't know what to do with you. And that started us thinking, okay, this is an issue here. They don't know what to do with us. They don't know who we are, what we can
Wow.
do, what we have to offer. All of us women of this generation, they don't know, well, what's going on here. So we better explain it. And that is why one reason we started Lustre was to advocate in words, but also in pictures. This is what we look like. We're not
Mhm.
all in rocking chairs and using canes. We've got all kinds of vitality. So that was a real eye opener for us.
Yeah. And we have a lot of talent, we have a lot of knowledge, we have a lot to give. I mean, I'm sure
Exactly.
that your skill set and your background that both of you have would have been a huge benefit for that nonprofit, or really in any organization. I've worked in nonprofit for years and years and years. And it just, my blood pressure went up when I just heard that. Honestly, like, oh my goodness, what a lost opportunity. And so I love that you created a community. You created Lustre as a result of what you were experiencing. I think it's phenomenal to see women at our age doing that. They just fill the gap, which is exactly what Kim and I did as well. Community is important, and it's a foundation really for what you do. Um, women lose their identity. We've talked about this, and they're looking for that community, and that can be really hard, plugging in. We've talked a little bit about that as well. Can you give us maybe more specific ways in which Lustre creates that sisterhood and that connection and that belonging so that our audience understands what you do?
Sure. So Lustre is a website which has a weekly newsletter that goes out to all our members who pay $65 a year. And what they get from that is a number of things. And I think by saying these things, it kind of gives you a sense, April, of how we create community and how people respond to it. So as Karen said, it has, I would call it thought leadership about how to think about retirement, how to redefine it, how to um, reimagine it for yourself. It's not prescriptive. We don't have, do this and do that. It's just for thinking people to say, maybe if I looked at it differently, maybe if I said, I don't want to do this for my daughter, I should take some control, and maybe I should decide where my interests and her interests are, collide, and where they don't. Because filling up your time is not what we're about. So we have a lot of thought leadership about the journey. What is it like to deal with the shock of retirement? How do you get over the hump? How do you what do you say? We have lots of stuff about what do you say to people who ask, what are you doing now? That's a huge issue for us, right? We don't want to talk about the past. We want to talk about the future. So there's that. Then we have monthly events that are mostly virtual. We went kind of virtual at post-COVID, but and the community gets together for two kinds of events. One is speakers that are pretty much experts that have something to say about where we are. It can be not political, but on interest, substantive issues that are of interest in the world, like economics. But often about things like our health, our well-being, our economic future, all that kind of stuff. And those are interactive, although you can listen to them later. But there's a lot of questions that we have found that people like to appear before the Lustre audience because, as somebody said, they're the best questions I ever get. So it's a good virtual event. So we have those. Then we have a weekly news show with a veteran reporter that's a half an hour, which is a run through of the things that you probably know, but at least Karen and I are news junkies, but we still always learn something we didn't know. So that's a good half hour well spent. And that's a lot of conversation by everybody about how people are feeling about things, what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
And then Lustre has other resources like members tips and tips about where to travel around the world that are hidden. You wouldn't be able to find those on your own. And finally, and maybe most importantly, it's a platform that has a member directory that people are finding other people where they live and actually getting together on their own. Because what we realized was from our members, I can't find my tribe. I can't find my people.
Yeah.
And we said, well, we have several thousand members, about 2,500 or more now.
Right.
We know where these people are. Why don't we find a way to create a platform where you can find each other? And they are doing that all over the country. They're getting together for coffee. They're getting together in museums. They're planning stuff to do. So they're finding their tribes. And so I think for most of our members, what the feedback we get, and we get a lot, is that I finally found women like me. I retired. I couldn't find them. And now I know where they are.
That's sweet.
That's probably my favorite part right there.
Yep.
That you're connecting women across the country. Bravo.
Yeah, really.
Yes. It's very
wonderful
Could
to
have
watch.
stopped right there, right? I mean,
Yeah, no, it's wonderful
honestly,
to watch.
that's important. Yeah. I'm wondering if you have any stories, Kim.
Yeah,
I mean, I love personal stories, and I'm wondering if you have a story, maybe your own story, or someone within your community that maybe surprised you, surprised her in the role that she stepped into after retirement.
Well, we have a few. One of our favorites is a woman who we got to know a couple years ago. She's in her late 60s. When she was young, she grew up in some small town in Texas. And when she was 16, she asked her mother if she could come to New York to learn how to be an actor. And astonishingly, her mother said yes. So she came along. And after a couple of years, she realized she wasn't going to eat. So she went back. She went to school. She became a marketer. She was very important in big institutions, and she had a great career. Then she retired and she went back and started learning playwriting. And she wasn't really planning to go anywhere exciting with it, but she ended up 2 years ago, her play was produced on Broadway.
Amazing.
Which was unbelievable.
Wow.
And she's extraordinary and she's remarkable. And she just decided, well, I'm going to do this now. And she just did it. And she found people to do it. And so that's one of our favorite stories.
That's a great story.
Another one, just a quick one, was a woman who retired, so obviously over 60, and she thought she would do things consistent with her career. She was in financial services, which is typically you go on a board or you
Mm-hmm.
do something like that. And she kept getting conflicted out that there were reasons that she couldn't do this and then she couldn't do that. And so she said, screw it. I've always wanted to be an airline stewardess.
Mm.
Or it's not called a stewardess.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Flight attendant.
Flight attendant. Very, very, very. And so she applied and she got accepted to flight school. And she's now flying around the world. She said, unlike the younger folks who are, want the stuff close to home because they have kids and husbands, she said, my husband's fine with this. I'm going everywhere.
Wow.
So
Wow. That's outside the box, and I love
Yeah.
that. And Karen, your story too. I'm really visual again, but I'm picturing someone going into their closet, right? How many old boxes and stuff do we have in the closet of stuff that we have held on to? I don't even know what is in this closet that I'm looking at in front of me, for crying out loud. But I'm picturing going through the closet and pulling out an old box and dusting it off. You blow it off and just say, yeah, let me go back and see what used to bring me joy years and years ago, before kids, before I had to launch them in college, before I started caring for my parents. Again, it comes back to that. What do I want? What do I love? What brings me joy? What brings me purpose? And I love both of these stories, because your story, Erica's like, I didn't expect that. So good for her. But Karen, yours is just remarkable, because she came back to something that she really wanted to do, couldn't afford it. And look at her, full circle, and using that.
It's amazing. It's
Never
wonderful.
too late.
Never too late.
Never too late.
No.
You'll get a kick out of this. My 20-year-old daughter told me the other day that she should have gone to med school. It's too late now. And I'm like, what are you even saying? Oh, what are you even saying? You're 20,
Right,
for crying out loud.
Whatever
But those
you wanna
stories are
do.
great, because, you don't think that you can or should, or it's too late. And the message is, it's not. If there's something you want to do, go after it.
It
Yeah.
is
Right?
never too late. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And
I
that's
mean,
what a lot of
Awesome.
these
Go ahead.
women who we have come to know, they're amazing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's amazing how they came to what they came to. They're indomitable. They will not be slowed down. They do what they want to do, and they're inspiring to all of us. They really are.
Oh my gosh. Okay. We could keep talking, but that is like the most inspirational
I
thing
love
right there,
stories.
right?
So
Right?
I'm glad
Yeah,
that, I'm glad
absolutely.
we shared a few. Mhm.
So where can people find you?
Our website is www.lustre.net. And we're also on social media and under various names, but Lustre, Lustre, will find you all of them. And we would love to see you there.
Oh, so good. Okay. So we always ask our guests at the end of our podcast, and you're both going to have to answer this. So sorry, you don't get away with it, because
Yes, ma'am.
yeah. But what's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Best piece of advice I ever received was work hard and then keep working harder. And the faster and harder you work, the sooner you will get to where you want to go.
Oh, wow. Okay, say that again.
Work really hard,
Mhm.
really hard. Then the harder you work, the faster you will get to where you want to go.
Great.
Okay, April.
I know, I'm writing. I'm
like,
writing
right?
it down.
That's
Yeah,
what,
exactly.
that's what we want to do.
Yeah, yeah. I love it. Okay. That's good. Erica.
Just say yes.
Mhm. Hmm.
I think that a lot of people that had careers like ours, you were saying no most of the time to a lot of things in your life. And when I retired, it was a shift in paradigm of saying, instead of saying, do I really want to do that? Recognizing that if you try it, you can always say no later.
Mm.
It
Yeah.
it totally shifted from a no to a yes.
Lead with yes, because we are told to say no. You can always change your mind later.
Right.
Don't put
Right.
too much on your plate. Say no. And that is a complete 180.
Complete.
Say yes, and then you can change your mind later. And
Yeah.
isn't it a blessing that we get to say yes to things that we used to say no to? So
Yes.
Is indeed a blessing. Yes, absolutely.
we're heading into the Thanksgiving week. This will air hopefully before Thanksgiving. So just that attitude of gratitude, we can end on that note. I appreciate your time today. It is timely. As I mentioned at the top of the show, I've had several conversations this week with individuals who really are at a loss. So thank you for being here, but thank you for doing what you are doing and creating that community for women and inspiration. You are an inspiration. So thank you so much.
As are you guys. Thank you for doing,
Absolutely.
for our daughters, you're doing what you're doing
Yeah.
Absolutely.
all
Thank
the
you
way
very
around.
much.
Of course,
We're all
we
having
get to
fun
meet
doing
great
it
people
too.
like you. So
Yeah, absolutely.
But until we meet again, listeners, go find joy in the journey, and we'll talk to you next time. Take care.
Thanks, Lustre friends.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much, ladies. That was a pleasure.
Thank you for listening to the Medovia Menopause Podcast. If you enjoyed today's show, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe for future episodes, leave a review, and share this episode with a friend. Medovia is out to change the narrative. Learn more at medovia.com. That's MIDOVIA.com.